Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode, a special episode of Black Together, a Walk in Her Shoes. I am Lady Lisa. I am here with my sister, cousin, partner in crime, Madam Butterfly. Say hello.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.
All right, so once again, this is a special episode mostly because we are live and we don't usually go live and we don't usually go on camera. Mm. So this is our first time with that. So y'all be patient with us because we are brand spanking new to this live thing and being on camera thing. So we're looking all up in the atmosphere and everywhere. Just go ahead, laugh at us, but be patient with us. All right.
Right.
So we are celebrating today, having Black Together walk in their shoes for a full year. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, but it is customary that we choose a shoe from our shoe arsenal to walk in. So for such an occasion, what do we have in our shoebox today, Madam Butterfly?
Oh, it is a mouthful. So
Oh
get ready
Lord.
for this. We have a Gianni Beanie 20th anniversary collection Katiana 2 rhinestone embellished over the knee Western dress boot.
Mm, that's really extra.
It's so extra, but what else would be appropriate for our 1 year anniversary?
That's true. It's just a whole lot of extraness. And it doesn't look as extra as it sounds.
It absolutely does. It's
Okay.
white, there's bling, I think there's like a steel toe. It's 100% extra. Everything
Oh.
that you could imagine.
All righty then. That's what we have today. So we are going to walk oh so tenderly with shoes such as that. So, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome. For those of you that have been listening to us and everything, thank you for joining us once again. So, we're going to talk about a little bit about who we are. You know, why we have Black Together Walk in Our Shoes, how it came about. So, who we are. Once again, I am Lady Lisa. For those of you that don't know, I am married to Nerd Soul. He is my husband. Okay. I'm married to Nerd Soul. And so he's kind of like pulled me into this world of YouTube and going live and everything, which has actually really been great. So and I am, of course, a wife. I'm a mother, former teacher. Um, and that's, pretty much me in a nutshell. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Madam Butterfly.
Well, I am, of course, your cousin, and blood cousin, because people do ask, are we really related, or if not, but yes, we are blood
We not play
cousins.
cousins.
Right. Although we're more like sisters, but we are
Yeah.
blood cousins. I am a wife and a mother. I work, I guess you could say, in the corporate world. And yeah, that's that's pretty much how it goes. And just from us having our regular everyday conversations, this show just kind of materialized, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, and it absolutely came from just that. Just, really Nerd Soul overhearing our conversations and him kind of shaking his head or chiming in or laughing or whatever. He was like, y'all need to have a show. And he said that enough times where we were really like, yeah, we should go ahead and do a show. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's really how it came about. Let's talk a little bit about what Black Together Walk in Her Shoes is and what is our purpose. And I'll let you start off. What how would you really describe the show and what do you see as our purpose?
Well, I think, of course, we can say that our show is from a Black woman's point of view because we are Black women. But I think that we kind of have a different viewpoint than, I guess you would say, the stereotypical uh, expectation
Mhm.
of what Black women think on different views. And we discuss those things. We discuss things that affect our community, things that are important to our community, and holding our community accountable in situations where that's necessary. So I think it's just an honest, fresh look from our point of view. Even though yes, we are Black women, and we're coming from that perspective, our view is our own, and we're not trying to be the poster board for anybody. This is just our fresh look at various issues. So, what are your
Abs-
thoughts?
Absolutely. Well, I kind of made some notes because I wanted to kind of do my best to encompass it. I said to hold us, black folk to a higher standard, to encourage black women to be our very best, to promote healing, wholeness, and happiness, to share our experiences and hopefully guide young women that are where we were.
Hmm. Indeed.
Yeah. Um,
Indeed.
so let's go back and talk a little bit about this year in review, because we've done a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
we've actually done a lot. Um, I think we've had some really great topics, and anybody who's listening that you're here for the first time, once again, I invite you to go and listen to some of our former shows. I think we've had some really great topics, some really great conversations. But it's some things that we seem to repeat and talk about a lot. We've talked about, foolishness. We'll go on and have a topic, and I don't know, we seem to get fairly passionate, about the things that we're talking about, and we'll just, burst out and say foolishness. And yeah, so there you go.
Should I now roll the clip?
Yeah.
Here we go.
So she gives this whole long rundown about him and all of these different circumstances. It's a lot. So we're going to kind of run down the foolishness. And I think that's honestly the key. When you can get to a point and say it's coming from inside instead of looking at everything on the outside, because the common denominator in all of your foolishness is you.
It's not my lack of effort because I'm being obedient. I'm just sitting here waiting on the Lord quietly. You know what I mean? It's foolishness.
Yeah.
It's foolishness. And you're going to be in the same situation waiting 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now for the same thing, because while you waiting on God, God waiting on you.
But who are you?
Right.
What are you? What are your standards? Let's start there. Do you have standards? What are they? Do they even make sense? He needs to be 6'2" is not a standard, ma'am. It's a wish.
But I want my babies to have curly hair. No, that ain't a standard.
That's not a standard. That's a genetic recommendation.
Oh my goodness.
That's a conversation between you and your maker that I guarantee you he's not going to have with you. So,
yes.
So yes, all of that foolishness, and that goes into lists, and that's a whole other thing where I am totally against sitting down and making lists, because you end up making a list of stuff that doesn't even matter. All right. So as you could hear, that is a whole lot of foolishness. We talk about and we'll name things foolishness in an absolute heartbeat. Okay. And you know, another thing that I find myself saying a lot is that no one is more responsible for you than you. Because, again, we talk about accountabilities a lot. And I know a lot of Black men are probably like, thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Black women talking about having accountability for themselves. And we are huge advocates for that. We're huge advocates for the Black family unit with a Black man at the head of the family, inside of the home.
Yes.
Living
Say
there.
that. Yes.
Leading and living there.
Yes.
Together. I'm just saying.
One bed, one pillow, by myself.
Just saying. So yeah, we're huge advocates for that. We're huge advocates, for the Black family. We're huge advocates for, just taking responsibility, for yourself. Yeah, and all of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is still as of now, our most watched video. Our most watched video is one that was titled "Killing the Messenger." Ice Cube and the CWBA. So that was a video that we did. Whew, was that right before election, the
Yes.
presidential election?
Mhm.
And so we talked about Ice Cube and the contract with Black Americans. And again, that was the most watched video. What do you remember mostly about that, Madam Butterfly?
Um, I just remember feeling like, what in the world is actually happening? Because I think as a people, we sometimes rally hard against our own interest just
Mm-hmm.
based upon how something looks. And what I mean by that is, all kinfolk ain't skinfolk, or
Yeah.
all skinfolk ain't kinfolk, how they
Yeah.
say that. And in the same way, just because Ice Cube decided to reach out to the Trump administration, who was in power at that time, to say, hey, these are the needs of Black people, it doesn't mean that he's somehow a traitor,
Right.
to us, or any of that. He was actually going to who would be the reasonable person to go to at that particular time. Now, we could go into the timing of it all because
Yeah.
it was during an election time. You know what
Right.
I mean? So if there was anything for me that I would question about, that would just be the timing of it, because
Mm-hmm.
if he had just waited a couple of weeks, then he could have actually gone to who was in power.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I could see him trying to apply a little bit of pressure to
Right.
get reassurances from who's in power, and or the candidate who's trying to win against him, that we'll have some type of assurances to address issues that affect our community. And what we've
Yeah.
seen a lot in the past is that, candidates will give us all of these empty promises in order to get in those positions. And once they get in those positions, they don't do any of the things that they said that they would do. And historically, we have kind of blindly given allegiance to the Democratic Party. And
Absolutely.
any time that we do anything that seems even remotely Republican, it's like they pull out the pitchforks and all of that, and there's this whole cancel culture thing. And so I think that he got a raw deal, and that he has every right to be able to speak on behalf of Black people just like anybody else.
Right.
And the way that people were trying to invalidate him as a person based on his job or whatever is no different than when LeBron was told shut up and dribble.
Yep.
There were a lot of us that got completely upset about that statement because it came from a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
But in essence, the same thing was being said to Ice Cube. It's just
Absolutely.
by people that look like us. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
It was just the whole thing was just so frustrating, because he was being attacked, and specifically it was a show on Fox, whatever, with four Black women
Hmm.
that were just going in on him. They just seemed like they were just so like you know on him, and it's just
Hmm.
like, what in the world? It's y'all act like you know he called everybody the N-word. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like just across, it just I didn't understand it. I really didn't understand it. It's like, oh my gosh, how dare a Black man um that we didn't validate, that we didn't give permission to, that doesn't fit into our criteria. How dare he stand up and speak and try to lead and do anything, you know,
Right.
if he doesn't have on a suit and tie and have, letters behind his name and have
Hmm.
gone to an Ivy League school. Because that seems like that's the only time we want to be okay with a Black man standing up and speaking on Black issues, as if he fits all of that criteria.
Right.
When it actually, in essence, the everyday Black man, even though he's far from being an everyday Black man, but you kind of get what I'm saying. but
Hmm.
more so the everyday black man should be the one, in my opinion, to stand up and speak on, I don't know, everyday black folks,
Right.
you know,
Right.
because the black elites live a very different life than the rest
Indeed.
of us.
Hmm.
So, but go ahead.
And I was just gonna say, Ice Cube didn't just be birthed into the world as Ice Cube. He had a
Right.
lot of hardships. He experienced poverty. He experienced living in, the inner city,
Mhm.
and a lot of his music was the result of those experiences.
Right.
So I think that he's very qualified to talk about those types of issues that plague that community. And not only that, being black is an experience.
Yes.
It is an experience,
Yeah.
and not that's not to say that every black person has the same experience,
Hmm.
but I think that all of our lives, our existence, um, plays a part in our ability to speak on it. Our
Yeah.
ability to speak on the issues that affect us, as a community. And so I just think it was so um, it was just horrible, horrible
Yeah.
optics for us to publicly go at this man and challenge his intelligence and his worthiness to speak on what he believes that our community needs. All of us have the right to speak on that, you
Absolutely.
know.
And, he was wise enough to recognize that, hey, I do need to work with others, who
Hmm.
have experience, politically, maybe writing bills and whatnot. So he joined with other academics, if you will, you know,
Hmm.
those that did have the letters behind their name and did have experience. So he was wise enough to say, I'm going to need to do this because I don't know everything. I don't know exactly, what I'm doing going in. But he did it, and that's the
Yes.
thing. That's the other thing is so many people that were criticizing him. It's like, but what have you done?
Right.
Where's
Right.
your contract with Black America? You know what I mean?
Right.
And then some wanted to separate. Well, what about the women's issues? Honey, is you black? If you're black, this covers you.
Right.
Man, woman, girl, boy, child,
Right.
toddler, baby. It's just all of us that are
Right.
black.
Hmm.
It was, yeah, this was extremely it was frustrating, irritating, and it kind of upsets me that we haven't heard much from Ice Cube since.
It's very, very true. And it kind of draws a parallel, even though that was like a year ago, it draws a parallel to what's kind of going on with Dave Chappelle.
Mhm.
And just this whole cancel culture, no matter how successful or unsuccessful the attempt is, I think we have to be very careful about trying to silence people based upon us not agreeing.
Yeah.
And I think that where that becomes particularly significant for Black people is that we are still saying the same things about. Um, the issues that plague our community, about imprisonment, about racial profiling, about police brutality. And there are groups of people who continue to say, oh, that's not true. What you're saying is ridiculous. You're playing the race card, you're race baiting, that's not
Yeah.
reality. All of these different things to try to invalidate what it is that we're saying. And, you don't have to have someone's agreement to to possess the constitutional right to say what it is that you feel.
Yeah.
And I think that anyone who listened to his special with the purpose of listening,
Mhm.
not with the preconceived notion that he is homophobic or transphobic or whatever terms that you want to place on him. If you actually listened to his story, I think that there were parts of it that were very endearing, and him basically just talking about his experience, from not knowing anyone who was trans, not really having the ability to have empathy for that
Mhm.
community at all, to meeting someone and it kind of humanizing, um, that community.
Yeah.
for him. And I don't think that that's any different than, a white person who's never been around Black people, or any race for that matter, any race
Mm-hmm.
who's never been around a certain race, and they have these preconceived ideas, or religion for that matter, preconceived ideas about
Mm-hmm.
who people are. And then you actually meet somebody and you build a relationship with that person, and it changes your view,
Mm-hmm.
because you just haven't had the exposure. And I think that what he was trying to, well, I don't even think trying to explain, I think he explained it very well,
Yeah.
um, was just that experience of transitioning from that thought, and being able to just express freely, hey, listen, I don't necessarily have to agree with what it is that you do, but I believe that you have the right to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that everybody should have that space to live and let live. We don't necessarily have to have somebody co-signing on our lives, in order for us to exist and have equal opportunities and all of those types of things. So,
Right.
I think that it's unfortunate that, there are attempts out there to cancel, Dave Chappelle, especially when I don't think that his intent was malicious at all.
No, I don't think so either. And I will just say this about it. Um, in my opinion and from my point of view, in general, the LGBTQ community has gone from saying, hey, we just want to be accepted and respected, all the way to you will agree with us or we will come after you. That's what I
Mhm.
feel it has really come to. It's no longer a thing of, hey, we just want to be able, to live and not be shunned and not be disrespected, which of course is completely reasonable and should be the case. But it feels
Mhm.
like it's moved all the way to the other side of, really, a lot of people in that community becoming bullies. We've even seen videos of
Yeah.
that happening, where they become physical and violent with people that are uh very peacefully protesting. It was a video of someone actually taking up for Dave Chappelle,
Mhm.
with the sign, and they came and attacked that person, and
Yeah,
it
I saw
just
that. Yeah.
it's gotten to be too much. It's like, I don't have to agree with you, like you were saying. I don't even have
Mhm.
to um believe the same thing you believe or whatever. I just need to respect you
Mhm.
as a human being and respect your right to make your own choices as a human being. That's it. That's
Right.
it. There's nothing else
Right.
that you should expect from me or require from me, at
Right.
all. And the other thing that me and NERDSoul will talk about is, it seems like in a comedic setting, every race, both genders or all genders, as some people would say, anybody across the board that fits into any group is complete and open game for comedy, except those in
Mhm.
the LGBTQ community. As
Mhm.
soon as you open your mouth and want to make a joke about them, oh my God, oh my God, you're so. No. If everybody else is fair game in a comedic setting, then so are
Mhm.
you.
Right.
And,
Well, and
and if you feel otherwise, don't go to a comedy show and don't laugh at the
yeah,
jokes.
right. No, you're right. I can remember, a comedian, Lisa Lampanelli, and, she was very, polarizing. Her whole shtick was, she was a white woman. I say was, like she's not still, she still is. But her whole kind of her whole shtick was that she loved Black men. She loved being in relationships with and sleeping with Black men. That was her whole, basically her punchline for everything. And so,
Oh, she was a female Gary Owens. Okay.
yeah, well, but it was beyond that. It wasn't just like, "Hey, I'm a part of your crew because I'm with somebody Black." It
Mm-hmm.
was like she used every possible stereotype. She would use racial slurs in her comedy for every group, like all of that. And she she was very successful in her
Mhm.
career for years doing that. And no one of any community said anything about the racial slurs that she was using
Mhm.
and that type of thing. And so, I think that we have to be careful. Once again, like you said, in that comedic setting, we have to be careful about what it is that we're willing to rise up in our chest about,
Mhm.
because for everything that we rise up in our chest about, there's 10 things that we haven't. And so the
Mm.
question then becomes, well, why? Why is it that this particular issue, this particular conversation is unacceptable,
Right.
but it's acceptable to you to hear a racial slur being heard,
Right.
to hear derogatory terms in regards to people of, different religious backgrounds or whatever? Those are the things, because it's very interesting that the leader in this, coalition against Dave Chappelle has been under fire for a lot of racist tweets that she had against the Asian community.
Mhm.
And so it's like, it's very interesting. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's interesting from the perspective of, she felt justified enough in her position to stand in condemnation of him for what he was saying in regards to a group that she aligns herself with. But
Mhm.
she was totally okay with being disrespectful and even threatening bodily harm to
Mhm.
people of another community that she wasn't a part of.
Right.
It's hypocrisy at its finest. So
It is. It really is, and it's actually really irritating. I can't remember who said it, Nerd Soul, you may remember, but someone said, why do I need to be a part of your um or how much do I need to be a part of your pretending or your imagination,
Oh,
however,
that,
how is it termed?
I can't remember exactly how he termed it, but that was from Dave Chappelle. That was from
Okay.
a older stand up, still in the Netflix series, but he was like, "How much do I need to participate in your delusion or something like that,
Mm.
or your fantasy, something like that."
Yeah. So, and
Paraphrasing, of
some
course.
people would find that very controversial, but he was pretty much,
mhm,
referring to, um, you know, men who have decided now they're a woman and women who have decided now they're a man. And, there's all this controversy about, misgendering people, saying ma'am instead of sir and sir, all this kind of thing. And so I don't know. It's a lot. Um, but I think it's interesting that it seems like this cancel culture is seems to be hitting black folk
hmm,
more.
yeah.
But
I think, like, across the board, we just have to respect everybody's right to live however
mhm,
they want, under whatever terms that they want. And we don't have to agree, approve, or anything of anybody's life. And
right,
at the same time, we don't have the right to demand for someone to approve of our lives. I've never once gone on a public forum and demanded that anybody accept who I love or who I'm attracted to,
right,
or any of that. And I don't think that anybody else should feel compelled to do so either. Everybody should just mind their own business and let people live how they want to live.
I
And
agree.
that's pretty much it. And if everybody will do that, and also if everybody will just relax, um, because comedy is comedy. And, we grew up in the generation of people like Andrew Dice Clay, who was saying every male chauvinistic thing that could be said, and he was raunchy, and he was controversial,
Mhm,
and that was part of his greatness, not
yeah,
in, not speaking on whether he was a great comedian or not, but just in terms of the level of success that he achieved.
mhm,
He amassed this success because of his shtick. You know
right,
what I mean? That was his thing. And so now it seems like everybody is so sensitive that, you know, no jokes can be made about any group that either they're a part of or that they feel some connection to.
Mhm.
With they just get all bent out of shape, and a joke is a joke. And I can hear jokes about women. I can hear jokes about Black people. I can
Mhm.
hear jokes about married people or parents or whatever other group that you know, um, I associate with, and realize that it's a comedy show, therefore it is a joke.
Right.
And it's meant, even if you say, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that person said that or
Yeah.
whatever, it's still a joke.
Yeah.
It's
A-
not done in a way that is malicious. So
Yeah. Go
There
ahead.
was a shouts to thought crimes. There was a caller that called in. They had two people on the line. And I remember one. There was a younger guy that was mad about Eddie Murphy's Raw. I can't remember what the part of the special it was, but I mean Eddie Murphy Raw.
Was raw.
It was Raw, and it was back at a certain time when certain jokes were just like flying, and he was kind of trying to take the older guy to task about the whole, like, your whole generation like this and this and the third. And he said, well, back then we knew comedy was comedy, and to leave it where it was, like,
yeah.
okay, cool, we left it. It's comedy. We're not expecting this dude to be the president. We're not expecting this guy to mount the troops and go into war. We're expecting this guy to look at our society in a specific way and find something weird or funny about it.
Yeah.
And maybe turn and drop a couple spices of truth in there as well. We're not expecting this guy to be our guide or our pastor. And I think that's something that it made the younger guy pause, because it's like, yeah, I think you're expecting these people to be more than what they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also some people just they take issue with being able to sit back and laugh at themselves, because that's what it comes down to. You have to
Right.
be able to really enjoy comedy, right? In the way comedy is done in all its fullness, where it's like everybody, is game. It's almost like if you go to a comedy show, you cannot be don't be sensitive and sit in the front row,
Right. Right.
because you're
Yeah.
setting yourself up to be really, really hurt. You
Right.
need to be
Yeah.
able to laugh at yourself. And I think, honestly,
Yeah.
if you really want to be deep about it, for those that have trouble laughing at themselves, it's because you really have some issues with yourself,
Right. It's true.
and you don't want anybody else shining any type of light, especially not a comedic
Hmm.
light, on those issues that you're really sensitive about.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to. You got to be able to laugh at yourself. We all know that there are some weird things about ourselves. Some we're sensitive, or we're quirky, we're weird, we're over the top, whatever it is. And you need to be
Hmm.
able to sit back and laugh about it sometimes.
Yeah.
You know.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah.
So that's what it is. So let's talk a little bit about some really, really recent issues. There have been some elections in a few states, some recent elections, and
Mm.
in Virginia, in
Oh
Virginia,
yeah.
good old Virginia. You
Yeah.
all. I was gonna
Yes.
say
You don't
y'all.
want to associate anymore. You're on
I'm
another side of the
from
country.
I'm from Virginia, which means I am no longer there. No. No, of course. I'm
uh.
from Virginia. That is home.
Mhm.
Bless the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so governor and lieutenant governor have been newly
Yes.
elected, and I wanted
Yes.
to let's talk. I'll let you talk a little bit about what the one of the main issues at hand uh was in this race.
Before you get started,
Yes.
though, I
Mhm.
do want to hear how happy you are because y'all got a sister. Oh, yeah, a sister. Ain't you excited over there? Y'all dancing in the streets?
You have a button to play crickets?
Anyway,
It makes me think of that part in The Color Purple where she was like, who's that woman, Hoppo? Hoppo, who that woman?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. She is not. She's our sister in Christ, as are all women, but Tamara,
Yeah.
she
So
ain't us.
yeah, when is it Winsome Sears? Winsome Sears.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say this. Some of the issues on her platform sound intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I feel like once again it's just more of um, the ploy
Mm-hmm.
to get us to be uh confused, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
by the appearance of things. And, being that I am in Virginia, there were a lot of billboards up and that type of thing. With her face. And I remember seeing an image of her with like a machine gun or a rifle or something. She was, posing with the rifle, um, which was very interesting to me. It was like extremely interesting to me. But and this is not, I want to be careful because I don't want to come across as either Democrat or Republican.
or get
Mm-hmm.
shot.
Um, I have I have voted more liberal leaning just in
Mm-hmm.
general. However, l- going into the Trump administration at that particular in that particular election, I was looking at all candidates across the board because I did not feel like neither Trump or Hillary were good selections,
Mm-hmm.
for either side. So I just want to be very clear that I am more concerned with platform and policy as opposed to who the person is. I could
Mm-hmm.
care less who the person is. So with that being said, um, and as we had mentioned earlier as well, there's this running theme that we can somehow just easily get the black person's vote by either putting the Democrat sticker on it or by showing them a black face.
Yeah.
And so I think that that was what was being attempted
Mm-hmm.
here, was to kind of create some confusion about her party affiliation and all of
Mm-hmm.
that, and kind of put some imagery out there to make it seem like, okay, well, this is a black woman and we've never had a black woman in this position, and that type of thing, to kind of confuse the messaging on what was happening. So for the uneducated voter, in terms of platform, knowledge about platforms and stuff like that, it could be very easy to just check that box because you've
Right.
become familiar with the name, or maybe there's a connection, you feel a connection because she um, is a Jamaican immigrant. Like there's different things that were put out there kind of as these signals
Mm-hmm.
to get you to feel connected to her. And I'm not going to speak on whether I feel like she's qualified or not. Well, that remains to be seen. It was just the methods that were used that seemed misleading
Mm-hmm.
to me in order to get her into that position. But outside of our sister from another mister, the one of the most polarizing issues that we have here and in a lot of places in the South is this whole conversation about critical race theory. And for those who don't know, this is basically um, where there is a desire to kind of examine how race plays a part in law
Hmm.
and in kind of the liberal approach to the liberal mainstream approach, I should say, to different things. It's basically a way to kind of open our eyes to um, because I don't want to trivialize it when I say it, but it's like when I heard about it, what I thought was it's basically people trying to prove to people that don't look like us that what we've been saying all of these years is actually happening.
Mm.
Basically, they want to have documentation from research when statistics already show us that the rate that we're imprisoned, or
Right.
two people that are convicted of the same crime with the same record, and you know how the sentencing goes, we've already seen these things.
Right.
But those the civil rights and activists parties want to have more documentation to say, hey, look, like we said, this is what's happening. And the people that oppose it are like, hey, you're race baiting. So it's just more of the same
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
really. It's more of the same conversation. It's just now they've been able to put a label on it, and, we're not going to pollute the minds of our children so that they can grow up having guilt about being who they are. And that's just what it is.
Yeah. It's like I know I'm not going to quote it exactly, but it was something to the extent of a Facebook post I saw where it says, so grandma who was, spitting on black children trying to integrate a school doesn't want their children to learn about grandma who was spitting on black children trying to integrate school. You know, that's what it comes that's what it comes down to. you know, all of those old videos and pictures and sound bites, that's somebody's grandmother. That's somebody's
Right.
grandfather. That's auntie. That's Uncle Joe. The hey, all of those people are not dead.
Right, right.
They are alive and kicking. You know what I mean? We're not, because we're not talking about our ancestors. 'Cause they, that whole thing was like, when you say our ancestors, you mean my grandma? you know that's what y'all talking about when you say, "Oh, your ancestors with you." No, my grandma
Right,
that's sitting at home just chilling right now. Okay,
right.
so
Well,
go ahead.
there's also this thing we've talked about, the photos that we get or that we have out there where there's a lynching and there's people around like it's a concert. Those people didn't disappear. Those people didn't just, they weren't snapped away into dust. They had kids, and they told their kids the things they believed in. And the things they believed in is that if you really want to have fun, why don't we hang somebody and invite the whole town?
Yeah,
And make a postcard about it and
right.
sell it in the corner store.
Right. And sometimes it wasn't even just telling the children about it. There are plenty of images that show the children actually present while these things are happening. And we have to recognize the importance of imagery and symbolism, and how seeing that type of thing could desensitize anybody
Right.
to the suffering of a group of people. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
just that's human nature. When you see things more often, it doesn't have the same level of effect on you. And so it's important to realize, like you said, there wasn't the Thanos snap and all of these people disappeared and there's a whole new reality. No, all of these belief systems passed down to generations, and now we are the children of those children.
Right.
This is where we are. We are the children of those children. It wasn't that long ago.
Not at all. Not at all. And
Yeah.
like me and NERDSoul were talking about one day, wouldn't it be something if in all of this research and stuff that's being done, which I think is really honestly amazing, where you see all these documentaries where they've done research to find different people and talk about different, events. Wouldn't it be something if somebody did research looking at some of these postcards that we've seen in these different documentaries of where there's a lynching and there are all these white people standing around and children included? Wouldn't it be interesting if somebody, was able to track down some of these people and their children, their
Mhm.
grandchildren, and have a conversation with them and say, "Hey, have you looked in the attic and looked in some of these photo albums?
Mhm.
Let's talk about what's in the. Have you asked any questions? Do you already know about
Right.
those photo albums and what your grandfather was doing in that photo album?
Mhm.
And that's a
Yeah.
picture of your mother at age 7 standing right beside him, beside a burning, hanging, dismembered body."
Right. And what positions did they hold in the community?
Mm,
Because a lot of times, there were people who were a part of police departments and judges and
absolutely.
lawyers and doctors, and firefighters that were all participating in these types of things. And that type of culture, that type of thinking, within an agency of any kind, doesn't magically go away if these things aren't addressed head on. So when you
Absolutely.
hear terms like defunding the police, it's not coming from a place of people believing that we do not we do not have a need for police to protect the community, because there is a need for that. However,
Absolutely.
we need for the people that are in those positions to actually be for the communities that they serve, and not to be in those positions to abuse their power.
Right.
And if if it's people who are participating in that legacy of those postcards,
Mm-hmm.
then it's a recipe for disaster to our detriment as Black people.
Absolutely. And what's up, Kid at Heart? Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Thank you. He says happy anniversary. That's what's up. Thanks so much.
Thank
But
you.
you're exactly right. And I don't want to go us to go too far down this rabbit hole because we can't.
Yes, we
Um
can.
but let's go back, to our quote sister, if you will, that's now the lieutenant governor of Virginia. You and I
Yes.
talked about this a little bit
Mhm,
off camera, but I think everybody needs to really pay attention to this whole concept because this is giving me Kamala vibes, if you will.
mhm,
This whole concept of putting black women into positions that are not ADOS, really putting black people into positions that are not ADOS, right?
mhm,
And then
mhm,
we as ADOS people get excited about it. And it's like they ain't doing nothing for us. They
mhm,
didn't say they're going to do anything for us,
mhm.
specifically for us. Kamala Harris said, "I ain't doing nothing specifically for black people." She said that out of her face.
Right. She
And
did.
nothing else that she said even insinuated that she would. And for us to get
Mhm,
excited just because we see a black face is ridiculous. And I don't mean any harm. People may disagree, whatever. We should have learned after Obama.
mhm.
We should have
I
learned.
agree.
We should have learned
I
our
agree.
lesson after Obama because he did not do a ding dong thing for us. He didn't
Oh,
even
you're gonna get
attempt.
some people mad now. You're gonna get some people mad, Lady Lisa. You
They
can't
can.
you can't talk about the black folks president Obama. You can't say anything about him,
Mm.
you know?
Well,
And
I tell
that's
you what, in all of their madness, if they can list one thing that he specifically did that we needed done as black folks, I'm not talking about as Americans, as black folks, if they can name one thing that he did for us specifically, not something that trickled down and happened to help us out as he was happening helping everybody else. They can name one thing, we could have a conversation. I wait. So,
now
but
come
we
on now.
we have to be careful getting excited about this because I now see that, and hopefully other people will see that black women are being used,
Mm,
right? And they are putting into position black women that are immigrants or children of immigrants. So their allegiance is not to another black face. Their allegiance is to other immigrants.
right.
because if we going back to Kamala Harris once again, she has been more concerned and working more for uh issues that have to do with immigrants, because guess why? Her parents are immigrants. Those are her people. I mean, she can step all day and be a part of AKA and go to as many black colleges as she wants to
while wearing Timberlands.
while wearing Timberlands. Okay. So, thanks, Kid at Heart. We appreciate you. Um, so I don't know. My thing is, we just need to pay attention. Stop being so
Right.
excited because there's a black face there. It goes back to the whole thing. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. And I'm not necessarily downing this woman, but at the same time, she knows she's taking a position where she is going to be expected to represent all people, but she also should know, someone should have educated her, that as a black face, black Americans are going to be looking at her a certain
Mhm.
way. And she, either she went in knowing that she was going to be used,
Mhm.
or just not believing that she was. I don't know. I really don't know. But us as ADOS, we need to pay attention to this, because these women, taking positions, these black people taking positions, they do not have us as ADOS in mind. they,
Right.
they just don't. So
Yeah. The agenda, whatever the agenda is for that particular group of people, is what takes the front seat. And
absolutely.
anything else comes secondary to that. And so, whatever can be used to get them in those positions to push that agenda is what actually happens. And so, we've seen that across the board. It doesn't matter what party is in
Mm-hmm.
office. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just be real. It
Yep.
doesn't matter what party is in office. We've seen the same results, and we have been, at the picket lines screaming about the same issues, for the last 60 years. The
Yeah.
same, the same economic issues, the same educational issues, imprisonment, racial profiling, redlining, like all of these things, even if they're termed, they have different terms,
Right.
we're still talking about the same things.
Absolutely. It's absolutely ridiculous that the issues our grandmothers were having is the same issues we're having, and I'm sure they never imagined that that would be the case.
Mhm.
And it's really sad to even think about that. But
Mhm.
let's move on to another issue. Travis Scott.
Yes. So for those that don't know, there was an Astroworld Festival in Houston, Texas. Travis Scott was one of the many performers there. There were over 50,000 people in attendance. And from the reports that I have heard, there was a countdown screen from the 30-minute mark of when he was going to be on stage. The crowd got progressively more aggressive as time went on, trying to push towards the front of the stage. And so, there was kind of this back and forth of people pushing forward, people pushing back, and several people were rendered unconscious from the pressure of being pushed. To and fro, and several people died. And so now the question is, who is responsible? There have been reports that the security was overrun, that they weren't in a position to handle that amount of people. I believe that that was the first time that a music festival of that size was held at that particular venue. And so, of course, what I'm afraid of is that this young man is going to be placed on the chopping block,
Mm-hmm.
when it's really not. He's just the performer,
Right.
and people came to see him. But the reality is that, the venue, is responsible for securing their facility, and
Yeah.
that's something that did not happen. And so, I'll definitely be watching closely to see, what what they do, how they spend this, but I'm already
Yeah.
starting to see these questions of, is Travis Scott responsible? And it's like, come on, this kid showed up to perform just like a lot of these kids show up to perform, just
Right.
like a lot of these kids showed up to watch them perform.
Right.
And crowd got out of control. Security is supposed to be there to maintain control, and that didn't happen. And unfortunately, lives were lost and
Yeah.
many people were injured.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And it's, honestly, there's so much blame to, the blame has to be shared, I think, in a lot of places, in terms of whoever organized this, whoever was in charge of organizing this whole thing holds a lot of weight. Whoever was in charge of making sure there was enough security, whoever was in charge of making sure that the numbers didn't go beyond what the numbers were allowed to be. Um,
Mhm,
and to go a little further back, for whoever is in charge of giving permits for these type of events, right?
mhm,
I think there have to be some serious contingencies in terms
mhm,
of that. Like, okay, if we're going to give you this permit, you have to confirm, that you understand it can only be this maximum number of tickets sold for this venue. And because you're going to have amount of people, you have to have X number of security. You have to
mhm,
have medical staff on hand, on and
mhm,
on and on. And if you
mhm,
confirm that, you understand that, cool. Now we're going to check again to make sure they're in place after your permit has been given to you within X
mhm.
number of days. And if we find that that's not the case, we're going to pull your permit.
Right.
I mean, I know it's hindsight is 2020, but now that we're here, I think
Mhm.
things like that should be looked at, because it makes no sense in this world that anybody went to a concert and never came back.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
with everything going on in life, I can't imagine somebody having to explain that to somebody's child or somebody's
Right.
mother. Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean they went to a concert and didn't come back? They're dead now. How do you wrap your mind
Yeah.
around that? Simply
Mhm.
because it just sounds like, the, whoever it was, the powers that be, were more concerned with numbers. They
Yeah.
were so concerned with numbers. And then you had the other thing of, have people out in this Texas heat, you know, with alcohol just abundant,
Mhm.
right? So it's just a lot.
It
It's
is.
really just a lot. And, it's not, this can't fall in one person's lap.
Yeah.
It
Well,
absolutely cannot
I don't
fall in
think
one
that it
person's
can
lap.
right, and I don't think that it can fall in the artist's lap at all
No,
because the
at
artist
all.
doesn't have it. The artist shows up. That's what
Yeah,
the artist does. The artist shows up and performs. And so, I understand that that's the easiest target. And
right.
especially coming from a financial standpoint, because I can see the civil suits starting to,
Oh, absolutely.
accumulate at any given time. And of course, he would be the easy target. And then I also saw reports that at the time that everything kind of was realized that there was pandemonium going on, Drake was on stage with him. So I'm sure
Mm,
that that'll be a part of the conversation as well. But the artist can't. The artist is not responsible. Now, if they had continued to perform and ignored what was happening, then there would be I think there would be some liability on their part. But that's not what happened.
well, that's what's
So,
being said, is that,
well, yeah,
that's what's being said, is that, and he did acknowledge, I saw a clip of it, people were passing out, and he continued with the show. But as others would say, people pass out at shows all the time.
right,
So it's not so much that I don't believe that he knew it was to the extent of people passing out and their passed out bodies were not, you know, were just laying there, which was happening,
right,
and that people were actually dying and being trampled and that sort of thing. Um,
right.
I don't believe that he was aware of that at all. I mean, how could he be? I mean, let's think about
No,
all that was going on from the point of view of the stage, you
right,
know.
right. he can't, first of all, he can't see everything that's happening. But not only that, I mean, how many clips have we seen of Michael Jackson videos where people are crying and passing out and all of this kind of stuff?
Absolutely.
And it's just kind of looked at as, well, it's a Michael Jackson concert. This is what's going to happen. People are
Right.
overwhelmed that they're seeing Michael Jackson. You're not, I can't recall anybody ever saying, as I sat and watched clips with them, saying, oh my goodness, these people's lives were in danger or something like that. Never. That was never a
Yeah.
part of the conversation. So I think it's reasonable to believe that, you know, he didn't know what was going on. And once he realized that something was going on, he stopped,
Yeah.
you know. So
So we'll
yeah.
we'll see. I'm sure we'll hear a whole lot more about this. I'm sure there's going to be more information that comes out about it. We just hope that, they don't throw this brother under the bus. But we won't be surprised if they do. All right.
Right.
So let's kind of take a break for we have a couple segments we like to put into our show. And one is called In Your Black Business.
Hmm.
And what we would like to do for this segment of In Your Black Business is highlight Black businesses. And we've, kind
Hmm.
of reached out and put the word out that, we would just like anyone to kind of just contact us, let us know if you have a Black business that you own and or run, tell us about it, and we would just like to give you a shout. Pretty much just to promote and support. So please do that. You can send us a message here, or you can contact us via Twitter, via Instagram,
Hmm.
on our Facebook page. Just tell us a little
Yes.
bit about your business.
Yes. Oh, and shout out to Kid at Heart for that struggle money donation. We appreciate
Yes.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Struggle is real and there the dollars is real. Thank you so much. All right, and so another segment we have is called New Days Resolution. So it's almost the end of another year, actually, and people do a lot of New Year's resolutions. And so I just
Yes.
thought it would be great to do what I like to call a New Days Resolution, meaning that instead of waiting till the end of the year and say this is all that I'm going to do next year, how about say this is what I'm going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow is a
Right.
new day. So what can I do differently tomorrow? I didn't do everything I should have today or yesterday or day before. So let's start tomorrow, right? So,
Hmm.
the idea I had today is start. That's the key word for your new day's resolution. START. Just start. If it's a new business, organizing, a new job, classes, working out, eating better, start now. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not next month or next year. No matter how small, the start is start. That's what I have for you today.
Absolutely. What
All
else
right.
can what else can be said about that? Just start.
That's it. Just start.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we have a main topic. On to our main topic after all of that. This is the meat of it, if you will. So this is sort of a review of a sort of kind of review or review of a response, sort of, right? So there's this young lady, and I can't remember her name offhand. I'm not sure. Stefco? I think it was Stefco.
Yeah.
And she made this video titled, I never bought into quote black love, so stop sending me that
Hmm.
video. Um, that's the title of it. For real. So what she's referring to a video that another young lady made all about how black love isn't real, black love is unrealistic, it's ridiculous, blah blah blah. So Steph Cole's response was, people have been sending her that video, and she's like, I don't know why y'all sending me this video. I never believed in black love anyway, so I don't need to stop believing in it because I never did.
Right.
So both of them are on this kick of, black love has been oversold. There's really no such thing as quote unquote black love in terms of it being a healthy relationship between a black man and a black woman. Um, they've both insinuated that uh, black men are in general violent towards black women in general. Um, just on and on and on. They talked about the low rate of marriage between black people, which I won't argue with. I won't argue with, but at the same time, Um, the divorce rate in general is high. So, I mean, are you against marriage or are you just against black marriage? You know what I'm saying? We're picking and choosing our statistics that we're going to pay attention to. Is how I see it.
Right.
But so yeah, we're going to talk about that a bit. Did you want to jump in here, Madam Butterfly?
Oh, well, first and foremost, I want to put a disclaimer out there that when people check out, because we are going to provide the link, right?
Yes.
Are we providing the link? Okay. So, I just want to put a disclaimer out there that I apologize for how exhausting, absolutely exhausting it's going to be um, to listen to this video.
Mm,
And we've listened to a few of her
mhm,
videos
Disclaimer.
about her experiences,
mhm,
and she's a very interesting person. But I think that we have to be careful about singling out our individual experiences and making it a Black or cultural thing. Even though even though the marriage rate in our community is not as great as it could be, or as great as it has been in the past,
mhm.
does not mean that there are not healthy marriages in our community. And just because you may have seen things in marriage that are distasteful to you, that is not a representation of all Black marriage. And so when you have a platform, I think that you have a responsibility to um, express what are your personal feelings about a thing and what those feelings are based on. And so it was kind of disappointing and disheartening to hear some of the things that she was saying, in particular because, there are a lot of young, impressionable people who, have desires to be married, to have that type of unit. And when you only speak on the worst of the worst scenarios that could
Yeah.
possibly occur, it can really put a bad taste in people's mouths about what can and should happen. So
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, like you said, we've watched a few of her videos, and we covered one of her other videos in a previous show, and yeah, I just felt the need to comment on it because it just seems so inflammatory. It
mhm,
really, really does. And I think you're exactly right. She's taking her personal experiences and honestly her personal issues because Lord knows, I really feel
yeah,
I do feel she needs some counseling. Um,
yeah,
and she has a lot of she has a lot of views, and that's a little disturbing that she has so
yeah,
many views. And I've looked at the comments and so many people agree with her, and I'm like, I'm in the twilight zone right now. Um,
yeah,
because this is what it comes down to. Of course, we have issues in terms of our relationship between black men and black women. There are a lot of
mhm,
issues. Obviously, there are. Um, but my thing is this: if our ancestors were able to make it through slavery, through Jim Crow, through everything else that they made it through, and still remain a black unit,
mhm,
think we are right.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It,
yeah,
it's to get to a point where you have so many black women saying, well, why should we, um, you know, be so concerned about preserving black relationships, when black men ain't interested in us. You're making a big circle because you have
yeah,
black men pointed at us and have black women pointed at them, and no one's
mhm,
sitting down really having a sincere, open, and honest conversation. Everybody
Right.
wants to one up the other one. And
Right.
to sit here and say, why should we be concerned about that? Is, are you concerned about conserving your own people?
Right.
To say that is to say, I'm not concerned about that. I mean, black people could just, melt in the melting pot and just disappear, and I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
That's
And some
that's what
people
you're really
feel that
saying.
way. Some people don't care.
That's
Some
that
people don't
that's a
care, but
problem.
it is, but this is one thing that I will say that we always have to be careful about, and this kind of ties back to the whole Dave Chappelle conversation, and that is that we have to be very mindful of the generalizations that we put out there for groups of people, that where we don't belong entirely to that group. And so when we start talking about Black men and what they are, what they aren't, and all of
Hmm.
these types of things, then we can't be ready to roll our neck when people start saying Black women, this and that. You know
Right.
what I mean? Of course, there's going to be extremes in every different group that is going to be, positive leaning, and it's going to be negative leaning.
Hmm.
And so if you're willing to generalize Black men and say that they're no good and all of this kind of stuff, then you should be okay with all of the comments that are made, the stereotypical comments that are made about Black women.
Mm. Yeah. So Kid at Heart is over here cutting up. Tell us what Kid at Heart said, NERDSoul.
Well, Kenneth Hart comes in and says he said she needs some young dot dot dot. Never mind, she need the Lord. That girl do need the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
let me tell you what really got me is she acknowledged that within her own family there are several couples, aunts, uncles, her parents, grandparents, whoever, that have been together for years and they personify black love. But her explanation was, well, that's from back in the day. I guess that's that old black love. But she's like that it's not the same now.
And
Right.
it's
No new
lies.
friends.
It's full lies. There's the I think the most recent study I can remember was from like 2008, but it was showing that black men at 84% marry black women. So it's not like now, of course, it takes a long time for studies to come out because it's not like they can study right now this year and do the study this year and like really, but at least in the last 10 to 12 years, at the 84 percentile, black men are marrying black women. And she has this video where she's showing video clips from movies, man.
Yes.
They're fake.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
movies. And I've said many times, stop using celebrities to be the example. Black celebrities, like Terry Crews, does not represent the average black man. He doesn't.
Oh
Thank you,
All
no.
right,
Lord.
stop. Nick Cannon does not represent the average black man.
No.
Lil Uzi Vert, Boosie Bad. None of these people are the average black man. Stop using athletes and celebrities to be like, oh, this is what black men do.
Right.
Because you wouldn't want men to do that for black women.
That's true.
Right.
Because all y'all ain't Michelle Obama. So you wouldn't, because when it's black men, it's like the example is Terry Crews. When it's black women, the example is Michelle Obama. It's like
It's true.
hold on. You
Yeah.
It's
know you
true.
can't
But
do it
for
like
for
that.
but for other people, they identify with, or they may equate the Black woman's image with someone who maybe isn't considered as classy and dignified,
Right.
depending upon what narrative is being followed. You know
Right.
what I mean? They may go more the Hottentot representation of Black women that are gapped open and half naked and
Meg the
popping, and
Stallion, Lizzo.
yeah, yeah,
I know you didn't want to
yeah,
name them, but I'll name them. Look, if you're gonna put yourself out there, then I'm gonna name you.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So
Mhm.
I thought that was so ridiculous. that she said, "Oh yeah, my family, I've seen black love all the time. However, that's old black love. That don't matter no more." Ma'am, what? And
Yeah.
then she goes on to further explain herself by saying, "When I was in middle school, ma'am, I need to stop you right there because if you." She goes on to talk about her experiences with little black boys in middle school. And she is
Hmm.
now a 30 some, at least 30 some year old woman.
Yeah.
Please,
I think
ma'am.
upper 30s. Yeah.
It,
Uh-huh. Yeah. That is
I
the template.
when
That is
someone
the
says
template
middle
for
school,
black love and relationships. Yeah.
when someone says middle school, you just have to come on,
Yeah.
stop it.
she needs counseling and therapy.
That should never be where your data query comes from, ever.
That is the that is that is the weirdest, most awkward time of life ever. You know?
Well, I mean, the only other video of hers that I could stomach where she was talking about the date that went
Mm,
awry. It was like clearly her point of reference or her perspective is kind of off because
yeah,
I don't really know exactly what she's looking at to determine like what is reasonable and what isn't.
right.
How is it reasonable as a middle-aged woman to think that middle school is a determining factor for anything?
Right. Because the thing is, those black boys that, said she was too dark or she wasn't attractive or whatever, they grew up to be men. And so what you're
Right.
doing is assuming that those black boys think the same way as they grew up. Now I understand, there was an impact to her and how she felt about
Hmm.
herself and everything. And I'm not taking away from that. All I'm
Hmm.
saying is, how do what were your experiences after middle school? What were your
Hmm.
experiences in high school and as a young woman? So on and
Hmm.
so forth. Like, I'm just really confused that your whole
Hmm.
argument is talking about school, middle,
No, she
elementary,
really
high,
confused.
you know, any of that. It's just really,
Right.
really, I don't know. I just couldn't get with her, and I couldn't get with the young woman who made the original video that she was talking about, because it just seems like there's all this animosity and hate for black men. And then they
Mhm.
turn around, she would turn around and talk about, dates that she would have with men outside of her race, and it's like, well, those dates didn't turn out any better. So
You, ma'am, are in common. You.
yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
You all
that's where I'm
please,
at.
like I said, if you can stomach the video, please click the link and check it out. And this isn't your average commentary video where we have like, the clip and then we stop and, talk about it or
Right.
whatever, but definitely check it out and just see the crazy mint of the internet.
Yeah.
It's very
And
interesting.
And I think it was Kid at Heart that said, "All y'all ain't Beyonce." Beyonce ain't Beyonce. Okay, she got a team of people to come up with her when she need to go out and about, between the hair, the eyelashes, and the makeup, and the spanks and the tights and the lighting and the
The
contouring and
push-ups and the push
look.
downs and the and the move overs.
All of that. She got a whole team of folks. And I think she's beautiful in her natural state. I really, really do.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
Beyonce that we see on stage, look, that take hours.
It's a whole network.
It's a whole
Like
network.
Verizon.
I
It's
did
a
want to I
whole
did want to add
network.
one thing
Yeah.
Like,
about your girl on this video though. The she tells some kind of story. She tells a couple stories about how she's like super drunk and like a white man pulled her down from somewhere or something. Okay, so she tells this story in the video about how she was at this college party, and she was drunk and she was dancing on the table. Now I'm going to say that once again. She was dancing on the table. So, and she was drunk. So, she said that there was somebody, a black guy walked around or something and didn't help her down from the table or something.
I believe she asked him to help her, and he said, "You a strong black woman. You'll figure it out."
Oh yeah, yeah. So, but then she said, so then she said that a white man helped her down and like gave her a kiss on the cheek or something like that,
Gave her a kiss on the forehead.
on the forehead. So okay, so flow with me real quick.
Some strange white lips.
Yeah,
You ain't you. Okay.
putting the lips of white supremacy on your head. But anyway, so all right, so flow with me on this one. Okay, what you're saying is that apparently this black man was just immediately uh aggressive or mean or just apathetic to you, but you didn't think that maybe the black man that's in college looked up on the table and saw a black woman disrespecting herself and looking all flighty, if you will, and said, I can't believe she took her black up there to dance in front of all these white people like she ain't got no sense. She didn't think about that, did she?
Nope.
Because he might have looked up
No.
there and said, why in the world is you up there with all these white people out here?
Yep. She
She
sure
never
did.
thought about that.
No.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't think about the common denominator, which is her. In none of this, she does not think about how she's presenting herself.
It's so real. It's so real. That I say a lot, that self-awareness is so important. And there's so many people out here that are grown folk,
Mm-hmm.
based upon their chronological age, they're grown folk, but they lack just the basic
Yeah,
self-awareness, just the
absolutely.
basic self-awareness, and you have to, at some point when you start having all of these like experiences, you have to start asking yourself, well, why is that? If I'm in these relationships where everybody's treating me the same, or these scenarios are happening where everybody's treating me the same, what exactly am I putting out there? And that's not to say that anybody deserves to be treated poorly.
Right.
That's not saying that at all. But we have to be responsible for ourselves and figure out what it is that we're doing to magnetize this type of energy to our
Mm-hmm.
lives, because that definitely is significant.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I don't know. I don't know why. I do know why. This has just rubbed me the wrong way. It's once again because she has this platform. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I think you do have a lot of responsibility you need to acknowledge when you have such a platform. And for her to take this stance, of she doesn't believe in black love, it's just, it irritates me to no end. It
yeah,
just really irritates me to no end, especially with her going in and giving the detail about her experiences and her own behavior, ma'am. This
yeah,
isn't even
for
about
sure.
black love, honey. This is about self-love and
Well, and
and your lack
shout
of
out
it.
to shout out to Back to Love, who said disrespecting yourself while demanding respect.
Mm,
That is, I mean, who could say it better?
thank you.
Who could say it better? You're expecting for somebody to treat you better than you're treating your own self.
Mm.
Your own self, ma'am. Let
It's
me just get
absolutely
on up
ridiculous.
here on my own on this table and gyrate around. And even though I got up here my own self,
Mm.
let me have an expectation for somebody to treat me better than me
Ooh.
and help me to shimmy on down off of this here table.
Mm. You
Oh
know,
my
and then kind of going on a tangent. When black men say, you want to remove us and our protection so that you can do what you want to do. But then when you need help, you all of a sudden want and need our protection again and get upset when we don't give it freely. Where do you do that at?
Yes.
But
Yes.
you all appreciative because this white man and kiss you on the forehead. But my thing is, you got to be careful of that, because why is he embracing and cradling you in all your drunkenness? What are his intentions?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely. Mhm.
ugh, just ugh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. My headset just went out. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I
cool.
can hear you.
I didn't know
So
if I needed to switch out or what.
no, I can hear you. I can hear you. So yeah, that's my take on that. And again, she goes into a lot of statistics, and I'm not, I didn't even want to take the stance of trying to, go through and comb through her statistics, because I'm not going to argue with, we all have seen and know statistics. No one's going to argue with that. The whole point is, if you just go on statistics in terms of relationships, you will be by yourself. Well, and I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
not with a black man, not with a white man, not with a Korean man. You're going to be by yourself, because statistics really say that marriages are falling apart, relationships aren't working, this, that, and the third. So you just can't go by that, and
Right.
my other stance is, you need to be making some better decisions, and
Hmm.
really trying to um be the best you that you can be, before you turn
Hmm.
around and say, well, men aren't doing X, Y, and Z, and they aren't this. No, you need to get yourself together first.
Yeah.
And I
She's a
honestly,
whole hot mess.
she's a whole hot mess. The whole
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
that's honestly a message I really have for black women. We have issues,
Hmm.
right? And we need to get our issues together as individual black women, and
Hmm.
collectively as black women, before we go on this rampage. When I say before, because it's already done, but we need to stop going on this rampage against black men, saying what they aren't doing, and they're no good, and they're not this, that, and the third, when we have so many issues. Oh my God, so many issues
Yeah.
that we need to take care of.
Yes.
You can't go looking for this quote, good black man, when you ain't a good black woman.
That's real. That's real. You better preach today.
I'm just
It
saying.
is Sunday after all.
Sunday after all. So, you know, and we always like to emphasize, we're not here to bash anyone at all. We're just
Hmm.
all about, once again, taking personal responsibility and
Hmm.
looking back at you and saying, what is my part in whatever the issue is? What is my
Hmm.
part in it? Am I presenting myself in the best light? Do I have issues I need to take care of? How am I falling short? What do I need to do? What did I do wrong? Because again, are you the common denominator in these situations? And if you are, it's you, not them. No one,
Right.
as I always say, nobody's more responsible for you than you.
It's real. And really, just as a whole, I think that our community really needs therapy. We
Yeah.
need to seek out therapy. There are a lot of traumas, not only just in terms of maybe like generational curses or that type of thing, but there is a legacy that has been passed down from slavery, um, that is just some of the most horrific traumas,
Yeah.
and that is stored within our physical being, and I'm a strong advocate for counseling, and I know that
Yeah.
that's kind of taboo in our community. We don't want to tell anybody our business,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that type of stuff, but there are so many different things that we have had to endure,
Yeah.
just from being black. We're not even talking about the individual issues, circumstances, traumas that a person just technical problems. Sorry about that. But just beyond that, it's we have a lot of stuff that we need to work through, and we don't sometimes realize how those circumstances play out in our interactions with other people. You know, as the saying goes, hurt people.
Yeah.
And so the more that we kind of try to suppress the years and years of issues that we've
Mm-hmm.
had and the things that have been passed down to us from previous generations, it just makes it that much harder, you know. And of
Yeah.
course, the easy answer is to make it everybody else's fault,
Right.
but all of the circumstances have you in common. And
Right.
so there's only so much running that you can do from you. Because guess
Yeah.
what? When you get to wherever you done running, you're
There
gonna be
you are.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everywhere you go, there you are.
Right.
It's absolutely true. And there's, there's such freedom, honestly, and accountability. It's hard to do. It's hard, to sit down and say, you know what, you are responsible for all these things that you've been going through.
Mhm.
You have to get to a point where you are sick of you,
Mhm.
honestly. When you get to the point where you are sick of yourself, you're now in a place where you're really on the way to what I consider true freedom.
Yeah.
Honestly, when you can sit back and say, yeah, I did X, Y, and Z, or I said X, Y, and Z, I didn't make the best choices, this, that, and the third, because you're taking that away from someone else coming to you and saying, this is what you did, this is what you da 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 da. No, I'm gonna sit
Mhm.
back and I'm gonna say that to myself, and then I'm gonna work on me to make better choices and to come to terms with who I am and what my issues are and what my past and this, that, and the third. And it's just so much, I'm telling you, anybody who has done that work, I think, would agree that it's just absolute freedom with that, because you're
Mhm.
not worried about so much what anybody else says and what
Mhm.
else anybody else does, because at that point it's like you've made your choice to behave this way and to act this way, and there's
Mhm.
nothing that I can do about it. I can choose to either uh deal with you or not.
Mhm.
You have clarity and you're making better choices, and you're saying, now if I see you for all that you are and I know me,
Mhm.
I can make a choice and say, either I'm going to deal with you or I'm not. And if I choose to deal with you and it goes awry, I can sit back and say, that was on me.
Right.
Because either I saw you for who and what you are and I decided to go in anyway, or I didn't do my due diligence in the first place. I just jumped right on in.
Yeah.
There are cases when somebody, gets over on you. There are. But I would say more often than not, you weren't paying attention or you excused it.
Yeah.
He's so fine, but he dumb as two bricks. Just saying. All
Yeah, if
right.
you got a dip in that hip, though, it'll send you to the mothership.
Whoo! So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. We again want to thank you all for joining us, and we're gonna be trying to do more lives as we go along into our new year. We're gonna be changing things up with the help of Nerd Soul. The help of Nerd Soul. With the help of Nerd
Yeah,
Soul.
Please,
yeah,
please.
I got y'all. I got y'all.
We're gonna
Shout
just
out to Malcolm Lee in the chat.
yes.
Yeah, back to love, Malcolm Lee, Kid at Heart, coming through. Even y'all that's lurking, not saying nothing, we still love all y'all.
Yeah. So we're gonna do our best to make it more better, do more lives and just amp it up a little bit. But we want to give a special shout out to Tracy Lee. I don't think she's been on here, but Tracy Lee has been holding us down for the
Indeed.
longest. She is
Indeed.
always listening. She always makes comments, and we really, really appreciate you for that. I just can't really say enough. You always make sure to do that, even if it's sometime afterward when you watch the video. You always make sure to comment, and we appreciate that. So we just want to emphasize, we do want you all to like, comment, subscribe, and share. But most of all, we want you to continue the conversation. We're always going to have a good time. We're always going to laugh and joke, but we do believe that the things that we're talking about are really important to our community, to to us in terms of relationship between Black men and women. So we want you all to continue conversation. Don't be afraid to comment. If you disagree with us, it's all good as long as it's done
Indeed.
respectfully. We just want to have the conversation. The conversation
Mhm.
needs to be had. Anything else you want to add, Madam Butterfly?
No, this was fantastic. Happy anniversary. I also want to give a shout out to my dad. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Daddy. I love you. This has just been incredible. Thank you to everybody in the chat for your comments. This has just been a really awesome experience.
It has. Yep. And thanks always to NERDSoul for allowing us to be on this platform and for helping us out and getting us all technologically together. Ding.
Thank you, Nerd Soul.
We appreciate you.
Y'all the bomb, so it's all good. You know, I got love for y'all.
Thank you. All right. So once again, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And thank you for joining us. And bye, y'all.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.